Hey everybody, Josh Peck here. Hope you're doing well. Well, we are going to be getting into some recent developments in scientific circles that really sound like Nephilim experimentations and a probable return to the days of Noah that Jesus warned us about when speaking of the end times. I think we're right there. We're right at the doorstep. Now, if you haven't had a chance, make sure you subscribe, click the bell to turn on all notifications. That would be great. And if you want the show notes to this, also make sure you share and like the video, comment, all that stuff. Because I do have a very important question at the end of this video that I don't know that I have a good answer to, and I'd like to know your thoughts. Also, if you want the show notes to this, a couple different ways you can do it. It's basically like an article that just goes through everything that we're talking about. If you want it just as a blog post, joshpeck.substack.com is the best place to do that. You can also get the audio only version of this video and everything else that we do if you just want the podcast audio only version, if you're driving in the car or whatever. Or if you want to download the PDF and actually have it on file, for yourself, you can do that at dailyrenegade.com. Just become a member there, and then you get all of the full videos that we do, stuff that we don't put on YouTube because of censorship issues. Okay, so first I'm going to give some history, some biblical history on some of this stuff, and extra biblical history, like things from the Dead Sea Scrolls, Book of Enoch, stuff like that. And then I'm going to tell you of some obvious examples of rebellion against God in these regards. But then after that, I'm going to tell you of another case that's a bit more difficult to pin down. And when we get there, I want you to think, is this rebellion, or is this purely altruistic, or is it somewhere in between? So let's get into it. The Dead Sea Scrolls, discovered near Qumran between 1947 and 1956, include fragments of the Book of Enoch and the Book of Giants, which talk about the Watchers' rebellion against God. These texts describe the Watchers, a group of angels, not only as progenitors of human-angel hybrids, but also as mad scientists corrupting animals through unnatural unions. Today, human scientists are participating in these same sins, but a bit more on that later. Now, the Book of Enoch, specifically the section known as the Book of the Watchers, 1st Enoch 1 through 36, is well represented among the Dead Sea Scrolls, with fragments found in caves such as 4Q201, 4Q202. In 1st Enoch 6 through 7, the Watchers, led by figures like Semyaza, descend to Earth, driven by lust for human women. Chapter 7, 1 through 10, states that they took wives for themselves and taught them sorcery, leading to the birth of the Nephilim, described as giants who devastated the Earth. This directly ties to Genesis 6:4, where the sons of God mate with the daughters of men, producing mighty men of old. The Scrolls version, however, adds more detail, giving us some more information about the Watchers' deliberate defiance of God's order. Now, beyond human hybrids, human-angel hybrids, 1 Enoch 7:5 tells us more of their sin. It says that they began to sin against birds and beasts and reptiles and fish, and to devour one another's flesh and drink the blood. So this passage shows us that the Watchers corrupted the natural order by engaging with animals in some way, possibly creating hybrid creatures or inciting chaos among the species. Now, while the Bible itself does not mention animal hybrids specifically, this does go along with the corruption described in Genesis 6:11 through 12, where all flesh had corrupted their way on the earth. And this, of course, prompted God's judgment with the flood. Fragments from the Dead Sea Scrolls, like 4Q204, preserve parts of this narrative, and this reinforces the idea that the Watchers' actions extended beyond just humanity. They sinned against the animals, too. Now, the Book of Giants, another Dead Sea Scroll text found in fragments such as 1Q23, 4Q203, 4Q530, and so on. This further explores this idea. It names individual Watchers and their offspring, the Giants, and tells of their widespread corruption. So in 4Q530, the giant Oya recounts a dream of judgment, telling of the consequences of their actions. Now, though this is less explicit about animal hybrids, the text does describe the giants' destructive behavior, which some scholars interpret as an outgrowth of the Watchers tampering with creation, which would include animals. And this connects to Genesis 6:7, where God resolves to destroy both man and beast due to pervasive wickedness. Now, these extra-biblical accounts portray the Watchers' sin as a twofold rebellion, creating human-angel hybrids, the Nephilim, and defiling animals, thus violating God's boundaries for creation. So while the Bible focuses on the human aspect and the resulting violence, such as in Genesis 6:13, the Dead Sea Scrolls amplify this into a cosmic scandal, detailing forbidden knowledge and unnatural acts. So when we time all this out, these sins would have been committed during the time of Noah, and as Jesus told us, the end times would be like the days of Noah. Well, we are certainly seeing that playing out now. So let's get into a couple of examples. So there have been some recent scientific developments that may intrigue those of us who study unusual Bible passages like the account of the Nephilim in Genesis 6:4. Researchers have conducted an experiment with potentially dangerous implications for understanding the boundaries between human and animal creation. Scientists at the Max Planck Institute for Psycholinguistics in Germany have introduced a human gene known as FOXP2 into mice, resulting in observable changes to the animal's vocalization. This is a human mouse hybrid that they've created. This study, published in a reputable scientific journal, explores the genetics of language. So the FOXP2 gene is recognized for its role in human speech and language development. Now, obviously, animals weren't meant to be able to speak when we read through the Bible because, of course, we know that it was Adam who named the animals. We learn about that in Genesis 2:19 through 20. So in this experiment, the researchers inserted the human version of this gene into mice, which naturally possess their own variant of FOXP2. The results were striking. The genetically modified mice produced ultrasonic vocalizations, high-pitched sounds inaudible to the human ear that were measurably different from those of unmodified mice. Specifically, the altered mice emitted calls with a lower frequency and a more complex structure. Basically, the human gene influenced their ability to communicate in ways not typical of their species. Now, for us Christians who know about the Nephilim, described again as the offspring of the sons of God and the daughters of men, beings of extraordinary nature, this research brings up questions about the limits that God has set within his creation. This involves transferring a uniquely human trait into a lower creature. Now, the mice did not gain the ability to speak human languages or anything like that, but their altered squeaks indicate that a single gene can bridge, in a small way, the gap between species. Yet, remember in Genesis that God said his creations are supposed to reproduce after their own kind. He set barriers in place, and these scientists are actively trying to tear those barriers down. And I wonder how God feels about that. Well, it seems pretty obvious. No one gets into full-time ministry to make money. At least no one should. Given that, Daily Renegade accepts donations from those who care to help keep us going. Now, because Daily Renegade does not want to be told by the government what we can and can't say, we're not 501c3, so your donations are not tax deductible, but that's not why you're giving anyway, to get something back for yourself. Speaking of which, we here are never going to promise that if you donate, God will reward you with even more financial success. We're not about making promises for God here. But what I can promise is your donations are very much appreciated and help the continuation of everything we do here at Daily Renegade to reach the world with the truth of the Bible. Also, as many of you know, my son Nathan has had some very serious medical issues that we are treating with good, all-natural and holistic remedies. But of course, those are very expensive and are not covered by insurance, so your donations help go towards his health care as well. If you can't afford to donate, you can always donate your time in prayer, which is far more valuable anyway. anyway, let's be serious. So pray for our wisdom, pray for God's guidance for us, and that we never lose focus on what's really important, which is using Daily Renegade as a light of truth that the world so desperately needs right now, especially in these times. As always, thank you so much for your generosity, and I pray God blesses you greatly. The study's lead researcher, Professor Simon Fisher, emphasized that his work aims to uncover how genetic mechanisms shape communication, offering insights into human development rather than creating talking mice. Now, ethically, the experiment adhered to strict guidelines ensuring that the mice were not harmed, although I would call that harm, though it raises broader considerations about the stewardship of creation as outlined in Genesis 1:28. So for us Christians thinking about these findings, this is a reminder of the sins of the Watchers tearing down boundaries to create a new kind of organism, the Nephilim. Well, there's more. Another recent scientific study reported in Newsweek offers a terrifying glimpse into the manipulation of creation. So researchers in Portugal altered the DNA of mouse embryos, resulting in specimens that developed 6 limbs, specifically an additional pair of legs in place of their reproductive organs. This experiment focused on a gene known as TGFBR1, and it's said to shed light on the mechanisms governing embryonic development. But those of us that know better can see this as another attempt to break the boundaries of God's created order. So the TGFBR1 gene plays a critical role in directing the formation of body structures during early development. When scientists deactivated this gene in mouse embryos, the expected layout of limbs and reproductive organs shifted dramatically. Instead of the typical anatomy, these embryos grew 2 extra legs where reproductive organs would normally form, revealing how a single genetic change can profoundly alter physical outcomes. Now, this study, led by researcher Moises Malo, aimed to explore the regulation of developmental processes. But of course, they say the goal was not to produce viable mutant creatures, but still, I mean, they are still clearly playing God. The creation of a 6-limbed mouse through genetic intervention, of course, reminds us of unnatural combinations, reminiscent of the sins of the fallen angels in Scripture. Scientists today are repeating the same kind of sins. And this just keeps going and going and going. Now, here's another one that I want all of your opinions on. Because at first it seems obvious, but then the more you think about it, it's I don't even know if this is gray area, but I'd be curious to know what you think about it. So, a recent medical achievement at Massachusetts General Hospital. This is another one that should make us all think about the boundaries of God's creation. So surgeons there successfully transplanted a genetically modified pig kidney into a human patient. And this actually marks the 2nd such procedure at the hospital and the 4th worldwide. So this event, detailed by Harvard Medical School, builds on the hospital's groundbreaking work in March of 2024 when it performed the first ever pig-to-human kidney transplant. So the recipient, 66-year-old Tim Andrews from New Hampshire, received the transplant on January 25th, 2025, after suffering from end-stage kidney disease. The pig kidney, altered with 69 genetic edits by the company eGenesis, which that's a really interesting name considering the connection to the book of Genesis that describes the sins of fallen angels and creation of the Nephilim hybrids, began functioning within minutes during the two and a half hour surgery. Andrews, previously reliant on dialysis, left the hospital just a week later. The procedure is a product of years of research into what's called Xenotransplantation, using animal organs to address human organ shortages. Now, of course, when we hear these stories, they are always told with altruistic purposes. But us knowing Bible prophecy, where might this lead? Genesis 6:11 through 12 speaks of a world where all flesh had corrupted their way, leading to the flood, a judgment on unnatural corruption. Now, while this transplant is promoted as a scientific effort to save lives, I think it could still be seen as a rebellion against God, maybe, and it raises questions about our stewardship over God's creation as outlined in Genesis 1:28. Again, the Watchers in First Enoch, who mixed with humans and animals, faced divine wrath for their hybrids. Here, the intent is said to be nothing more than just healing, yet the act of merging species could still feel uncomfortably familiar. And so this one is tough for me. Because, of course, we want to save lives, but at what cost? You know, you think about the other end of the argument. So what, was this guy supposed to just die if there wasn't another organ for him? I don't know, because I don't know the full story. I don't know the context. I don't know what got him in that position to begin with. Who knows? But would God approve of doing this if the only purpose was to save lives and not to create a new species of hybrid? Because it seems like the sins of the Watchers, it seems like the reason they were creating hybrids, it wasn't to save lives, it was to create new life because they were jealous of God. They wanted their own creation. That's what it seems like. Now, most of us would have no issue with human-to-human organ transplants. That happens all the time. But animal to human is obviously different. God gives us, as humans, permission to subdue the animals as described in Genesis, but would this include transplants like these? Honestly, it's a very difficult question, and one that is much different than messing around with mice and human genetics for experimentation and to create hybrids. So, as of right now, I don't know that I have an easy answer for this one specifically, but I do believe it's something that we Christians should be thinking about and talking about. And in light of that, I would love to know what you think. Please leave me a comment in the comment section below. Tell us your thoughts on this. Let's get a conversation going about this, because this one I'm not so sure about. I need some more information about what's all entailed. You know, when I hear genetic editing and all that, I get nervous and I don't want anything to do with it. But again, I don't know if this is a to each his own situation or if this is just all out. It's just all wrong. But again, I want to know your thoughts. Leave us a comment. Also, if you could, subscribe to this channel, click the bell to turn on all notifications, share this video around with your friends and see what they think about it. This is a really interesting question, and I'm curious to know what my Christian brothers and sisters are feeling about this. So do that, and check out all the links in the description below. There's lots of cool stuff there that you'll find very interesting. Okay, all that being said, that's all I got for you today. Love you all, take care, and God bless. You know, if you are a Bible-believing Christian who opposes the kingdom of darkness trying to run the world right now, then you are a renegade to the satanic system. We here at Daily Renegade wear that badge proudly. So, if you're a renegade as well, head on over to dailyrenegade.com right now and get a membership today. You'll get our full catalog of Sharpening Report episodes and Daily Renegade update videos on topics such as Bible prophecy, science, technology, the Nephilim, aliens, and so much more. All of our episodes at Daily Renegade are early access, so as a member, you'll get the videos before anyone else does. Daily Renegade also offers videos not available anywhere else due to social media censorship. We also have a community page only for members where we can all fellowship together without fear of censorship. It's basically the best of Facebook and YouTube rolled into one without any of the garbage. Memberships are only $10 a month or $100 a year, and if you can do it, I suggest getting the $100 a year because it's cheaper in the long run, and essentially you get 2 months for free that way. So come join our family of renegades at dailyrenegade.com right now. The link is in the description below, and we'll see you there.